try it out. Like I get how when it comes to testing your comfort levels, you have to do it in baby steps. So when it comes to certain things, just don't be so quick to be like, no, I'll never do that. Yeah, give it a try, because once you go to a place and you become acclimated and you're living like everyone else, you realize that it's just as beautiful as a place where maybe you have more conveniences, right? So it's different, but it can still be home.
Welcome to the Immigrant Experience in America, an immigrant human library, where we amplify and humanize the experiences of immigrants in the United States and around the world. Listen in as we add another story to our immigrant human library.
Tell us about this pura vida that you mentioned a few times in Costa Rica. Like, what's this whole idea about pura vida?
Um, I feel like it's hard to it's better to explain in experiences rather than the formal definition. So I think it means like pure life in Spanish, right? And it's
Yeah.
funny because I looked into the history and it has to do with some movie. It wasn't even a Costa Rica movie, but somewhere in the movie they said it, and then it just became really popular here. So I was like, oh, and so they just like embraced this lifestyle. So um, if I if I'm doing business with someone, like, hey, I just paid someone who delivered food to me or something, I'll go, thank you. And I'm like, con gusto, pura vida, or something like that. It's like, oh, okay. Like, and it's like, I feel like every time I said, it's like, just relax. Like, everything's good
Everything,
here.
everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, There were a couple experiences where there's two where, a tuk-tuk, gave me a ride, dropped me off. I would give them money and they'll say, I don't have change. I'm like, dude. So I'm like, man, I don't feel like dealing with this. I'm not feeling well. Just, give me a free ride the next time or something. And I just left it at that. And I'm like, I'm going to be here for a while. So if anything shady happens, I'm going to find them. But ultimately, in both cases, and it took a while because maybe I didn't go anywhere. Maybe I had my bike, so I didn't use a tuk-tuk for like weeks, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually, when, I contacted them and, they were also available and working, yes, they did, pay me back by giving me free rides, both of them. And one of them, I couldn't remember who the tuk-tuk was because my phone, like just shut down. I couldn't turn it back on, and it was not saving my it wasn't backing up my WhatsApp. So I was like, I don't even know which driver that was. I don't know what the amount was that he owes me.
Mhm.
But how do I even remember? I don't know. I think I ended up in my list of tuk tuk contacts, I ended up like choosing the right one. And then he was like, oh, it's been a long time. I'm like, oh yeah, it has. And I was like, how much is this trip? He was like, okay, so it's, this is how much is the trip, but I owe you like 6,000. And, I was like, oh, that's him. Yay. So he was like, when you're ready to go back home, just let me know and then we'll be good. And I was like, okay, yeah, so it was just super nice. And it's like, just constantly when you're talking to people, when you're doing business with them or buying a service or something, it's really chill. There's not a whole lot of you better not scam me or like I don't know. I don't know. It's
People
like
are honest. It's some people are honest. There's integrity. There's just pure humanity being exchanged. And as a foreigner too, living in another country where you don't, it's not your first language. There could be some anxiety with feeling like they're going to overcharge you, take advantage of you. But it sounds like people are honest and willing to follow up because they could act like they didn't know you,
yeah,
right? They
yeah.
remembered and told you that they owed you a free ride. That goes a long way
Hmm.
in earning your business. So it's good to hear. So you guys, they have tuk tuk. I used tuk tuk when I was in Havana. These little like coconut shaped cutout type of a thing, and the front is open, and you're driving with the wind blowing in your face. That is so cool. I have good memories. Wow. So you mentioned something earlier that I'm intrigued about, that there's a Jamaican community historically living in the area, and there's a story behind why they stayed. Tell us about that and like what the population in Puerto Viejo is like.
Okay, sure. So the population is pretty blended actually. So yeah, you see like you see your Costa Ricans, you also see your Afro Costa Ricans, and then and then there's a lot of people from the African diaspora, and then you'll see Europeans too. Interestingly, I'm like, oh, like I don't see a whole lot of American tourists. It'll be like European tourists when it comes to like Western people. Um, and so yeah, there's like a Black expat community here, but even without the Black immigrants, there's been like foundational Black Costa Ricans here since like the 18 something, like I think the late 1800s. So I had a friend visit, and I booked us tours with this man named Jungle Man that comes highly referred, and him and his brothers and his mom own a couple of restaurants. The one that his mom owns is called Lydia's, and that's like the restaurant that you go to when you come to Puerto Viejo. And then him and his brothers own another one called El Sendero, and then I can't remember if they have any more restaurants. So Jungle Man does tours, and so we did a tour with him. And when we were in Punta Uva, he was telling us the history, and he said like, okay, but yeah, back in the 1800s, like Jamaicans came over here to work, and then they were told, hey, we can't pay you enough for you to go back home, so we'll give you land. And so he was showing us a piece of land in Punta Uva where someone stayed. I can't remember the name. I feel terrible. But so yes, there is a history of Jamaicans here because they came over here to work, and then for some reason they weren't paid properly so that they can go back home. And there is a book that details this experience called What Happened Men. And I don't know who the author is, but apparently you can find it here. And I've been meaning to go find it in the bookstore so I can read more about it. But another thing that I've learned about the Jamaican families here is that there's another restaurant called Tamara's, and that family is the Patterson family. And then I realized across the street there's a sign that says the Patterson Estate. I'm like, oh, is that like the family home? And then there's this huge sign that says it lists like a bunch of families, and it says like the founding families of like Puerto Viejo. And also there's a couple of signs like either outside or in the restaurant that say our journey from Ghana to Jamaica to Costa Rica. It's like, oh, wow, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That is so neat that they have been able to track that and like document it, you know?
absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely.
What's beautiful. So it's a beach town. You mentioned Playa Viejo or Playa Negro or something like that, Playa Negra?
Yeah,
Is that
Playa
where you
Negra.
are? Is it like maybe a section of Puerto Viejo where you're living?
Yes. Yeah, so Playa Negra is you come down the main road, like okay, so you're coming from San Jose and you come down the main road and then it veers to the right. So that little section is Playa Negra, and the sand is black too. And then you'll go across one bridge, you go across the second bridge. That's when you're in Puerto Viejo, like you're in downtown. And then you keep going, and there's Cocles and Playa Chiquita, Punta Uva, and I think after that is Manzanillo. I think it's Manzanillo.
Oh, Manzanillo. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Wow, wow. Okay. So what is it? You have your own transportation, you work from home, so obviously you don't have to be commuting to an office anywhere, right?
Correct.
You're working with English speaking folks back in the US. For somebody who has to depend on public transportation and to work locally, have you heard any stories about what that's like? What's the transportation like? What is it like for somebody who has to depend on the local economy?
Excuse me. I'm not entirely sure. So I know that there's a bus called the Mepe bus, and it'll go down to Manzanillo and it'll go into Limon. You can also take it in from San Jose, I think. But so that's your public bus system that people can pick you up. A lot of people use bikes. Like bikes are a way of life here. So adults and children, they'll use it to get to work and school. And then there's also collectivos. That's what I was told about when I was in the previous house. Like she was like, you stand on the road and someone will pick you up. And I was like, okay. And it's like, 700 colones, and that's like $1.40 or something. So that's another way to get around. I was also told to stop doing that, which I realized it was. So I was like, why would you do that? We don't even do that. Like what? Like someone from here told me I could do that. And so anyway, so collective was our thing. Um, and then there's the tuk-tuk. So ideally with tuk-tuks, you kind of got to acquire the numbers, or there when you're in Puerto Viejo, and I think in Cocles, and I'm not sure where else they'll be stationed there waiting on people for a ride. And so then, like, if I need a tuk tuk, like right now, my bike needs to be repaired, so I need to ask for a tuk tuk, and I'm going to ask for one with a bike rack, or they know how to put me in there with the bike if there's no bike rack. And so yeah, that's acquiring numbers, and then trying to remember like who's your favorite one, who has a bike rack, all that jazz. Transportation. Okay, and then people have motorbikes. So yeah, bikes, motorbikes, collectivo, bus, tuk tuk, and then apparently there was one Uber driver. There's one Uber driver. They just started Uber shortly after I got here, and so yeah.
Okay. And accessibility to local produce, food, and are you shopping at the grocery store, or is there like a little farmer's stand that you're buying your food? How are you getting your meals? I
Um,
hope you're still not doing Uber
I'm so
Eats. I hope you're still not doing Uber Eats.
No, so okay, so I some of the times when I cook, it's like I'll add an ingredient that I'm not familiar with, but I'm like, surely this is just like sausage, and then like now my spaghetti tastes disgusting, and so and I hate cooking too, so I do buy my protein. By produce, it might be like fruit for me to snack on rather than like vegetables for me to cook with. So I'll buy that from the store, and then I haven't. There's fruterias everywhere, and there's also a lot of fruit bearing trees too. I think the ones in my yard aren't mature yet, but I haven't gone to a fruiteria yet to get fruit because I don't want to chop up the fruit. And so I'm like, can I ask them to chop up the fruit? And so I haven't worked that out in my head. The butcher was the same way. You can get meat at the grocery store. I'd rather go to the butcher. But then it was like, what if I don't know the Spanish? So anyways, I did wind up going to the butcher, and I made pork adobo. It's a Filipino dish. And so I'm slowly getting comfortable with getting the things that I need. But for the most part, I'll get like really simple things and then eat out like every few days or something. So when you said like, I hope you're not still using Uber Eats, I would if it was here. Okay, but so there's a grocery store near me that's really close, and that's where I get my water. And then there's a bigger store in Puerto Viejo, and then there's a couple bigger stores like further down and in Hone Creek. And then I mentioned the fruiteries and a butcher. There's also a farmer's market on Saturdays, which I didn't know the details or the hours of that until recently. And so I've actually been meaning to go there and buy some things. I think that's it in terms of yeah, fruit, meat, and vegetables.
What are the prices like? Is it cost effective compared to like living in Maryland and the DC area? Is it cheaper to buy food? Is it, like the rent and all of that, like living? Like, do you find that you're saving more money being over there?
It's okay. This is a lot of give and take. So I don't think it's that much cheap. I've been telling people it's kind of the same. But it's based like, what are you doing? Like I just mentioned that I eat out every few days, right? Instead of going to the local butcher or fruiteria or farmers market and buying things there, which will probably be significantly cheaper. So if you want to save money, you can. You got to sacrifice some of those conveniences, and so it's really what you make of it. And so when I go to the store, like I try to scan for the brands that I'm not familiar with, because it's easy to gravitate towards the brands you're familiar with because you'll just grab it. But it's going to be significantly more expensive, and then it's like, is it even worth it? And sometimes it is. Sometimes I want my goldfish crackers, and then sometimes it's like, okay, what is this? What are these other things? Um, and so if you want to do things in a way that's familiar to you based on the way that you lived in the US, it will be expensive. If you want to come here and adapt, I'm working on it. If you want to come here and adapt, yes, you can save money and live more like the locals because they're not going in and spending like, I don't know, $6 on peanut butter, right? And so it's a mindset thing, and the options are there. It's just like, which ones are you going to choose? So that's That's kind of how I see it, and that's why my answer for you is complicated because I've seen both sides. I've seen the if I go in and I buy like all the American brands that I'm familiar with, it's going to be expensive. And then if I strategically, plan out my meals and my snacks, and if I act more frugal, then yes, I will save money.
Yes, right. I get that. I get that. So I'm wondering about security. Do you feel safe just going off by yourself? Like, what is it like in particularly where you are compared to like other places in Costa Rica? So we don't get a lot of Costa Rican news, so we don't really know.
Mhm.
What's the security, safety sort of like in the area and around the country?
So in San Jose, when I got dropped off at the condos, I was told like, at nighttime, don't really go out by yourself. Maybe just around the block, but that's it. And I was like, ew. And I was told that more than once. Somebody else told me that they wouldn't feel comfortable being in San Jose at night, and I was like, okay. When I was in Cartago, it was different. Like, I mean, I was in that gated community, so if I needed to walk my dog around the neighborhood, it wasn't a problem. But there's also like a nearby neighborhood when you come out the gate and you walk a little ways, and there's like a park and everything. And it's like, oh, okay, it's pretty chill here. So I didn't feel danger here. Again, I don't feel danger. I had mentioned like, I was taking colectivos, and then I was told to not do that anymore. But even when I was in them, I didn't feel danger. But yes, there are cars that is just random people picking you up. Initially, I thought it was a taxi network, and they just weren't marked. I was like, no, it's just random people. But the people who got in the cars, the people who drove the cars, like I was probably like the only tourist that was frolicking in collectivos. But I still see women with children or women who are by themselves who stand outside and they get inside of a collectivo. Um, okay, so then there is theft, so people will get their things stolen. People get their bikes stolen. Somebody said that someone broke into his car and took his laptop and his um, some other equipment he had. And people were like, "Why did you bring that to the beach?" Like, I don't know, but it got stolen. I have read things about like thieves would hide in like the trees like before you get to the beach, I guess in Coclas or Playa Chiquita. And so there are signs that say things like, walk in pairs or like in groups. And then you'll see like a little graphic of a bandit or something. And so it's the whole just be mindful of your surroundings. Like, don't come here and think oh, nothing's gonna harm me. Kind of like me just dropping in collectivos. But like, just be mindful of your belongings. I was told, lock up your bike. And if I was just going off of what everybody was doing, I don't see a lot of people lock up their bikes. And sometimes I'm like, am I being extra? But then like you'll read about people getting their bikes stolen, even if they had it in like a secure place by their job. And so yeah, just be mindful of your belongings and your surroundings. But times when I've been downtown at night, or like I've ridden my bike from downtown to downtown and back home when it was nighttime, and there's a strip where there's just like no lights, and I'm like, oh god. But it's fine. I don't stay out longer than like later than like 9, so I don't know if it. I don't know. I don't know if things get on and popping like later, like I don't know. So I'm not out that late anyway. But I feel generally safe. But I mentioned some of the other things so that people know that there is crime, but it's same as everywhere else because we're humans and humans just do that everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Because it's happening here in the US. People get their bike stolen, laptop stolen. You don't leave your laptop out or your purse out in your car anywhere here.
Mhm.
So it's the same. But it's good that you have some sense of security, like moving around, just practice the same, same practices you would if you're living here in the US and you don't leave your stuff just hanging out for somebody to just take it, right?
Mhm.
Yes, but I'm intrigued. I'm on several Facebook groups of like Black expats living abroad
Mhm.
and in Dubai, in lots of other places, in Jamaica, Costa Rica. I'll be chatting with a few other people here in the coming weeks about why they left but it doesn't sound like there was any particular political, social or high real estate prices that pushed you out. It was kind of like you wanted to be overseas. Was that an itch where you felt like you'd be happier, or was it just the scene in the US? You're like, I just need to get out of here?
Yeah, there's a lot to say. So some of the things that were going on in the US had me like, why am I staying here for this? And so when I left, it was just like, yo, this ain't I don't want to be in a place where it's working against us to the point that we're physically sick and dying, right? And it's like, why am I doing this? And I had this conversation with my dad a few times because I was telling him, I was sort of sprinkling around like I want to leave the country. And so at one point he told me like, because I'm from the mindset of like when people say, "Well, why don't you leave this country?" It's like, you know what? I'm gonna leave. I give up. I'm throwing in the towel. Other people don't want to do that, and that's fair. So that's where my dad is, because my dad's like, you have heritage here, So my dad's point was, you have history here, and so he's kind of like, stand your ground. And I'm like, I don't think he's wrong. It's just I just didn't feel like it, and so I understand both stances, but it was kind of like some of the stuff that's going on there. I wasn't interested in being around anymore. And then I had a couple events happen with work and school. I just finished getting my master's degree December 2022. And there are a couple of things that happened which, as I processed them, I realized it was racism. And then it caused me to go spiral back into time to all the times where I was dealing with racism. And it was like, that's what that was like. And so when I mentioned the Cancun trip, but there are so many other things that were going on during that time period, and it includes that revelation of racism, right? I think I had just gotten snapped at work too. That was a thing that happened, and then I ended up taking short-term disability because I couldn't like deal. Like I talked to my psychiatrist, the one who does the meds, and I was like, if
Yeah,
I were to take
psychiatrist.
Yes. I asked him like, "Do you think I should take short-term disability?" And he said, "If you ask for it, I'll approve it for you." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." So I took short-term disability. And so I just wanted to give you that little snippet because I feel like I don't really have an intricate story for why I left. It was really a travel bug and wanted to move abroad, but there were so many things that solidified that decision, and there I had so many frustrations with what's going on there. Before I made the decision to be like, I'm gonna just leave the country, I was gonna try and buy property in California. I was looking at California, Arizona, Texas. Another thing that I tell people is that I am not afraid of traveling solo out of the country, especially if it's an area where people are like, why would you go there? The cartel and terrorism. And, I do my research, and then I do my research, and then I go. And then I go there, my perspective changes. Like, yeah, it's not that terrifying. It is terrifying what's going on in the world, but the people here are great, and they're beautiful, and they're friendly. It's a shame that what's happening in whatever country has this going on. It's a shame that the Western world is painting them that way, and so that is how I see the world. But in the US, I am afraid of certain areas. I'm afraid of taking a road trip and stopping to get gas at the wrong place. Um, and so when I was like, where am I going to live in California? I'm in Reddit groups looking to see what are people saying about these places. And there were some places where I looked at, and then I learned, oh, it used to be a sundown town, or they're kind of acting sundown towny.
Explain, what's a sundown town? You remember, I'm learning like the US. What's that,
Oh,
girl? Tell me.
you don't know what a sundown town? Okay, are you familiar with the Green Book? Have you heard the term Green Book?
Yes, I think it's a book that was passed around by blacks during a certain period to tell you like where to go for hotels if you're doing a road trip, what are the safe places and so forth when you're on the road, right? Is that it?
Yes, yes, and that
Yeah.
was my understanding is that that was a collective initiative too, which I think is fascinating. Okay, so a sundown town would be those towns where it's like you better not be in that town after the sun goes down. Um,
Oh,
and
okay.
so they're applicable now because you'll go places and you'll learn like, oh, this used to be a sundown town, and then some of them. Um, not only a sundown town, but you'll learn like they have some history with the KKK there. Maybe a grand wizard used to live there or had like a group, something like that. And so I kept coming across that when looking at California, or I will look at properties and be like, oh, what's it like here? And then racism, like, oh my God. And so I settled on, I thought Temecula was cute, but I heard Temecula was a similar situation where um, there are certain groups there and it's like they don't want you coming. And the people um, in these Reddit groups when they were talking about it, it's like, don't let that deter you from coming. Still come because we need our numbers to go up when it comes to like voting and all that. So I checked out Temecula and I had a driver. I told him, I was looking to buy there. And, we talked for a little bit, but he was kind of like, I think you would do better off in like, these other places. And it didn't sound intimidating, but it didn't sound friendly either. It was kind of like, I don't think. Um, I did a wine tour, and this woman, I did a wine tour, and it's just me and this other black woman. Not big deal, right? But this one woman who worked at the winery, she kept mixing us up. And it was weird because I've never, like, she kept mixing us up. And I was like, we don't look alike. We don't look alike at all. And it's not even like it was another light skinned person around my age. It was just like, we don't look alike. Like, my hair is longer, her hair is shorter. Like, she's wearing a dress. I'm not wearing a dress. Um, it's just so many things. It's like, why do you keep mixing us up? And so at this point, I don't know if it was, I don't know what that was. And at the time, I was like, I'm not gonna let this bother me because I've been mixed up with people many a times. But now when I actually think about it, I had a teacher back in like high school. I got kicked out of class, and I was like, "Why am I getting kicked out of class?" And I didn't think anything of it. I was just given to another art teacher to do an assignment, so I just did it quietly in her classroom. And then my friends told me she mixed me up with another girl that was supposed to get kicked out. And so it made me think of that. Like, is you just mix me up with another black person just because they're another black person. And so I was kind of turned off by Temecula. And then, California is expensive. And I was considering that area because it was close to Mexico. And, Mexico was still like this to me. Like, it still had my heart. So then after that experience and after just it's kind of exhausting to go through and find cities where I don't care if it's not a big city. I'm not a big city girl. So I'll look for the areas that I've never heard of, but then it's like, okay, now I gotta peel everything back. How is the community there? Am I gonna get stares or and stares don't sound intimidating, but I just want to give another example of a stare. When Jan 6 happened, I think it was Jan 6, when the January 6th thing happened, like, I went outside, I walked my dog, and when I walked my dog, this is in Southern Maryland, by the way, deeper in Southern Maryland than Waldorf.
If I may interject for our international audience, January 6th, you're referring to the, shall we say, the riot rush on the Capitol
Yes.
of the United States, where a lot of people went in, broke in, law enforcement officers died, a lot of the congressmen, others in the building feared for their lives, were rushing to safe places. It was quite a crazy day. If you guys saw it or didn't see it, go look it up. It's all over the internet, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm. And so yeah, I walk my dog later that evening, and when I walk him, I greet people, right? Different reasons. I'm your neighbor. Hi. It's getting dark outside. I'm not scary. Hi. My dog is big. Hey, hey, I'm coming near you, and I have a big dog. Please don't scream. And so I say hi to people, and so sometimes they don't say hi back. Maybe they have headphones on or something, but I go like, good evening or hi to this guy. He's like on his phone. He just glares at me, and I'm just looking like, did he not hear me? Like, did he not know that I was greeting him, and now he's looking at me like, why are you staring at me? Or like, and so I don't know. It's too much of a coincidence that it happened on that day, and I got that glare after he looked up from his phone, and which again, that's not what intimidates me because I interact with the people, and plus it would be too much for me to react to that. I sometimes I gotta save my energy. Um, so knowing that the climate like that is there, or that it's possible to run into that, instead of me giving this person the benefit of the doubt, is like that's what it was. And so these tiny little sprinkles of being uncomfortable in a place where I was born and raised, in a place where I have heritage. It was kind of like, what if I just like go somewhere else and just build something of my own? So that was kind of the reason. The reason for leaving was pretty. There's layers, is what I want to say, and so yeah, and I could go back home, but I don't plan to. I plan to just if I get bored here or uncomfortable here, I kind of want to check out either other parts of Costa Rica or just keep going, just check out
Yeah.
Panama, Colombia. Mhm.
That's beautiful, beautiful. It sounds, I'm getting a lot of like you're very in tune to your intuition and spiritual messages. Like, like you're getting messages and you're listening and you're in tune, and it's good to follow that, right?
Mhm.
We also get messages too. I think our bodies warn us when we're unsafe, we're in unsafe situations, but we've been so talked out of listening to our internal voice and our intuition like everywhere since we were children. And so I'm getting back into that, and I'm so happy that you're in tune to that. It sounds like you're happy and you're content, and that's important,
Yes.
right? And you're
Yes.
working overseas earning US dollars. This is like the best case scenario.
Mhm.
That's so awesome. But we've talked ourselves out for an hour and a half. And any parting words for listeners, for whether it's for the international traveler or for somebody who's itching to move and live overseas? Whatever advice you may have for our international audience of immigrants moving around the world.
I think it's important to make sure that you continue doing things outside of your comfort zone. So, like I mentioned, when I studied abroad in Cyprus, that was my first experience with not being able to flush the toilet tissue. And so, when I had that experience again in Cartago, and then now it's like, well, I've done this before, so this is my life now. So, things like, so let's say you're the type of person that's like, ew, I would never do that. Try it out. Like I get how when it comes to testing your comfort levels, you have to do it in baby steps. So when it comes to certain things, just don't be so quick to be like, no, I will never do that. Yeah, give it a try, because once you go to a place and you become acclimated and you're living like everyone else, you realize that it's just as beautiful as a place where maybe you have more conveniences, right? So it's different, but it can still be home. That's pretty much all I have, so that people can make sure that they're not like isolating themselves to certain parts of the world, maybe because they, heard or read about it in the media, or they saw great pictures. Go to the other parts too. I'm not saying put yourself in danger, but there's so much beauty out there, and I'm always amazed by it every time I come across it. There's so much more that I want to see. I want to see the stands of Asia, right? Like I want to see different pockets of Russia. I still haven't gone to India. Like there's so much that I want to do and see. And yeah, just keep an open mind.
Yes, perfect, perfect. Lovely message there. To see the world. And I've been getting these feelings lately that there's a lot of people in the African diaspora, and could be other people as well, who feel like, life in the US is like the only it that there is. And these stories are to broaden your perspective that life is beautiful in a lot of places around the world, right? And you
Absolutely.
don't really have to stay in toxic situations, whether it's work, socially, or otherwise, just because you think that's the only place you can live. You
Mhm,
can find joy, you can find peace, you can find acceptance, belonging in other places. And
mhm.
so don't be afraid to spread your wings, explore, connect with other people on Facebook or other places, and see what possibilities may exist for you.
Absolutely.
We thank our listeners around the world, and we appreciate your continued support as we build our human library. Please remember to give us a 5-star review, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, and circle of influence.